Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's showing of Oral Exposure. I'm your host X, and this is my co-host Wes. How you doing, Wes?
I'm good. How are you, X?
Not bad. You look a little like pensively, just like mulling something over. Like, I have an evil
Uh, I
plan.
I feel like I had to be a little pensive because of my shirt, my Peaky Blinders
Ooh.
Killian Murphy I do bad things
Oh.
shirt.
Hang on, hang on. How do you say his name? Did you say Sakillian Murphy?
It's Killian Murphy. Killian.
Are you shitting me?
Yeah, it's
It's
Killian.
it's not Cillian
Yeah.
Murphy. My life
No,
has been a
I
lie.
thought that no, I thought that for the longest time too. But on his IMDb trivia page,
Yeah.
it does say it's pronounced Killian. Yeah.
Wow. I want to hear him say it once, just to just like rip on him for like that's not how you say it, you dumb British person. Yeah, but speaking
He's
of,
Irish. He's
is he
Irish, I
I?
believe. Yeah.
No, really?
Yeah.
So elegant.
Killian Murphy's a hella Irish name.
Yeah, wow. I had no idea. I had no idea that was the thing. But like, while we're on the topic of Cillian Murphy, oh my fucking god! While we're on the topic of him, let's talk about so a movie that came out recently by a director that worked with Cillian, who is, as we all know, Christopher Nolan, the Jesus of cinema. Like he has made movies that we just didn't think were possible, like a Batman movie being so cool. Obviously,
Yeah.
you would think like Batman movies would be cool, right? But we had like George Clooney, the Batsuit with nipples. So a lot of people who have done Batman have managed to mess it up. But Christopher Nolan brought into a huge thing, and his genius is what I think catapults his movies into big opening weekends. And that's what we expect from Christopher Nolan. Big opening weekends. But now with COVID and everything happening, Christopher Nolan released another like genius work, Tenet, and Tenet has made 20 million over the opening weekend and 50 million domestically over the course of 4 weeks, which for the standard of Christopher Nolan is utterly ridiculous. It's like, dude, what's going on, man? Have you lost it? And
Yeah.
and Tenet is the best performing movie like throughout all of the pandemic. Like right now, the top of the cinema is a movie called Honest Thief with Liam Neeson, and the opening weekend is $3 million, and that's top of the charts. Three million
Yeah.
dollars. There's nothing beating that. So I just want to like talk about tonight that what does this mean? COVID is gonna disappear. But while it's here, it impacted cinemas to a degree that no one really predicted. And is cinema gonna recover from this? Are people right now like just dying to go to theaters, or are they of the opinion that streaming is just easier, better, and more accessible? Like, what's your own take on this?
Um, I think I'm the only person that I know about in that's my age that actually like legitimately loves going to the theater.
Oh yeah,
But before the pandemic, as far as I can remember, anyway. Like
right.
I think I got the sense, even from you, when we went and saw like Infinity War and stuff
Hmm.
like that, that
Yeah,
it was mostly like we want to see this movie now,
yeah,
and
yeah,
the only
yeah.
place we can see it is in the theater.
Exactly.
So that's where we're going.
Yeah.
I don't think. I think, especially beginning with our generation
Hmm.
and future generations, I think the idea of going to the cinema
Right.
is something that is going to be a little bit more. It's going to get rare, more and more rare.
Hmm. Like you think it's dying down? It's
Yeah,
a dying breed.
I think that aspect of it is dying down. I
Hmm.
don't think it's going to kill cinema. I think
Hmm.
that going to the theater as an experience is definitely going down, at least for our generation.
Right.
Most of the time when I go and what before the pandemic, I haven't been to to the theater since the pandemic.
Hmm.
The last movie I saw was Parasite,
Hmm.
and it
Ooh.
was like back in December or January or something. It
Uh
was
huh.
rare. It was a while back.
Yeah. Wow. Seems like years.
Uh, yeah. And but even then, when I went to the theater pretty frequently, it was
Hmm.
mostly people who were older than me that were there. And if
Really?
they weren't older than me, it was parents that maybe my age or not,
Hmm.
that had younger kids and were seeing like a kids movie, and I was there because I wanted to see the kids movie too. So
That's a good
the kids
point.
movie,
Yeah,
yeah,
because like
yeah,
I go to the movies a lot with you, boo. But
yeah,
yeah, now I'm thinking about it. I don't see any like high school age, middle school age kids
yeah,
lining up. And when we were in high school, we definitely went to the movies just like ourselves, no parents, no nothing. And or at least I did. Like sometimes I should go solo to watch it. But again, like you said, it wasn't because I loved the theater so much as I just wanted to see it. So to that point of view, I guess. So I don't think I have
Uh,
appreciation for this. So I wanted to
uh,
ask. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
like I do want to add.
Mhm.
Very recently, I can't remember. I think it came out in 2019.
Yeah.
The new Mission Impossible movie,
Hmm.
which I've never seen another Mission Impossible movie. This is the only one I saw. Was
Ooh.
Fallout, the newer one with Henry
Mhm.
Cavill.
Yeah. 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 Good one. To pop your cherry on.
Yeah. The reason he has the mustache in Batman v Superman is because of
Yeah.
that movie.
You
Uh,
have to watch it. I mean, just for that
yeah,
alone, it's like, what did that
but
mustache like cost? What
I
was it for?
remember I actually was trying to get people to go with me to go see it because I was
Hmm.
like, I've heard this movie's cool,
Yeah.
and I feel like this is a movie I need to see in theaters because of that experience. It's
Right.
it's a fucking like huge action masterpiece.
Oh yeah.
And I remember I specifically called you, and for
Mhm.
some reason or another, you couldn't go. You were actually here at the
Oh,
time.
did you what?
And yeah, and I think we were actually going to go together,
Uh-huh.
and I was in the parking lot of the theater, and I
Uh-huh.
called you to find out where you were, and you told me you couldn't go.
Oh, are you sure that's
And
me? God, that doesn't sound like
oh,
me.
I don't know if that was what happened, but
Yeah.
either way, I remember calling you in the parking lot of the
Mhm.
theater. So maybe I was inviting you right then or something. I don't know, but either
Oh man,
way,
I hope I didn't say yes and then like dish you at the last minute. Like,
I even if you did, I'm not mad about it because
okay,
what ended up happening
you're
was actually really fun. I
yeah,
went into the theater like in the afternoon by myself and
yeah.
watched that movie and basically had the theater to myself. And
Wow.
I have not had that much fun in the theater in a really long time. It
Re-
was so fun to just watch a pure visual and audio experience
Mhm.
with nobody else around where I could laugh and like cheer and just enjoy myself
Yeah.
fully. I had my own popcorn, my own drink, and I was like, this is amazing. I love this. And the movie was great.
Yeah.
The Fallout's incredible in
It's
terms
awesome.
of action
Yeah.
and everything. It's so cool.
Yeah, the opening like 15 minutes was the best part because there was like an Asian person. I was like, yo, he's gonna be a big player, but then like 2 minutes later, he was just dead. I was like, oh, okay, all right. I guess I saw that coming.
I still haven't seen the other Mission Impossible movies, but I know I need to now because that
Yeah.
escalation of the stunts throughout
Mhm.
those movies is
Yeah.
really cool.
It's like a tradition for those type of movies. Like they just keep building
Yeah.
up on action, and that's what makes it great. Like Tom Cruise being like the white Jackie Chan, pretty much, and he is. Not a lot of people give him a lot of credit for it, but yeah, he
Yeah.
messes himself up. But you brought up an interesting point here because you said it was the best theater movie experience for you, but it was because it was you by yourself in a theater, right? Just no crowds, no nothing.
Yeah.
So as somebody who really loves the theater, right? Like, because I can't get behind this as much as you. But as someone who really loves going to the theater, what are your favorite things about just going to the movies? Like, what
Well,
grabs you for it? Why do you love it, man?
one of the things is that the technology there is usually going to be better than even if
Mhm.
I attained the wealth necessary to convert a room in my house to a movie theater. That would be the point where I'd be like, all right, I no longer need to go to the cinema.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like, I can just do this here now and I'll be fine.
Mhm.
I'll go to the movie theater if I really need to see a new movie right then.
Yeah.
Or if I want to support somebody who doesn't traditionally make a lot of money, or as much money as they should, like Edgar Wright or something.
Yeah, I was about to say Edgar Wright. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
But that experience of just having like the sound exactly where it needs to be
Mhm.
and the visuals being exactly what they need to be,
Yeah.
and just to have your phones are off.
Mhm.
There's nothing else around you. The room's dark. Just have it like devoting that time to just being like, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm experiencing.
Mhm.
And even though I really try not to do it at home
Yeah.
when I watch a new movie,
Mhm.
I still find myself picking up my phone and
Yeah.
looking at it every once in a while, even if it's a movie I haven't seen, which I really hate that I do it too, but I do it.
Okay.
And I'm glad I don't have that option in the theater. So that's a big part of it.
Mhm.
And I think it's also just a nostalgia thing.
Mhm.
I have a lot of great memories early on in my life of the theater.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, as a kid,
so,
we loved going to the theater.
yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, it's a big event. You know, you get popcorn, you get candy, you get your Coke or Slurpee or whatever, and you get to watch a fun movie, and your parents are there with you or whatever. So there's like this nostalgic thing too.
It's a huge break. I mean, because
Yeah.
you brought up a great point. Is that theaters had the best sound, best system, best quality to display the
Yeah.
movies. And when we're kids, like the TVs, some of them are pretty big, but I wouldn't say any of them even holds a candle to the quality you get in a theater.
No.
With like with the films and all that. So that's
Yeah.
definitely a great part, right? The best equipment. But then that brings up another point: is that, well, maybe right now the only thing that keeps people going to the theaters is just they don't have good enough equipment at home yet. But that might change in a couple of years, right? So
Yeah.
this brings me to my next question, which is the biggest competitor I see, not even the competitor, the biggest killer of cinema, is streaming services. And more directors, Martin Scorsese, even, like this legend of cinema, right? Like good old cinema guy is gone over to Netflix to make The Irishman, which is just as great. The quality doesn't dim, but it's on Netflix. It's not in theaters. There's no great opening night. Like there's no that atmosphere. So I want to ask you, like, your opinion. Like you've obviously seen a lot of streaming services, and you've also really loved the cinema. What do you think are the biggest differences between the two that people care about or notice?
I think well, the most readily apparent is the availability. When you when you go and pay for a movie ticket, the least amount you're going to spend is $5, which is about a third. If
Which
you go on
theater
like
is
a
this?
certain, if you go the least amount, I said, if you go and if you're literally just gonna pay for the movie, and you go on like here at least, they probably don't do it right now because of everything going on. But they had a $5 Tuesday.
Oh yeah, on Tuesday. Okay.
Yeah,
I was like, all the theaters are like $8 or above. Where are you getting $5 tickets, bro? Like, cut me on this.
No,
cut me in.
But even $5 is a third of what it costs to have Netflix.
Oh yeah.
So, but with Netflix for $15 a month, you get more than 3 movies. You get all these shows and all these movies, so the availability is there. And so financially, for that reason, for at least that reason, financially and in terms of availability, streaming absolutely has the regular cinema beat.
But those two are like the biggest reasons that people care about like if it's cheap or if it's easy to get. That's why Walmart's being beaten out by Amazon, because it's cheaper, it's easier to get. So
no, and that's honestly what happens with capitalism and the way this whole and that's the way largely our generation is, and it's what people want.
Right.
The more options we have, we're going to go with the thing that gives us more options, usually for the cheapest price, and that's what the streaming services do. And a lot of people our age especially don't want to go out into the public, and especially right now. So streaming's obviously going to win.
Right. Actually, So right now I've noticed a phenomenon because everyone's forced to stay inside. I'm hearing more and more people like that want to go outside. Like when we're kids and we're students, if we have like a snow day, we're like, fuck yeah. But now, like, I'm seeing these little kids, these poor 10-year-old kids, they're like, I want to go to school. And it's like, are you crazy? Like, what's happening? Are you getting abused at home? Like, you can tell me. Like, blink if you're getting abused, kid. Like, why do you want to go to school? Like, that's crazy. That's crazy talk. Stop it. Stop it.
I do not. I am happy that I'm an adult, and I'm happy that I do not have children right now. I eventually, yes, children, but during this pandemic, I'm really glad I am not in that situation.
In my late 40s, maybe early 50s, I'll consider children.
But not right now. Like that's got to be horrible. That situation.
Bro, kids our age are like having I have multiple friends. We have multiple mutual friends who have kids. Couple of friends who got married. Steve, I'm not gonna mention his last name, but Steve got married, bro. And like I remember he was one of the first like non-woman friends of ours to get married, who we know very closely. And I was like, Steve, what? What's your secret?
He's pretty Christian too. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. He's not Mormon, but
Wow. Well, that changes things.
I will say Sheba Squish, my bad. Did confirm that $5 Tuesday is gone, so that makes me sad.
Well, the theaters are gone. I guess they can't really afford that anymore. Before they could afford to do $5 like Tuesdays, because like that they would still have enough profit. But now,
it honestly does make me kind of sad because I think I don't think COVID. I don't think this pandemic is the only thing responsible
Yeah,
for theaters going under. I
yeah,
think this was eventually going to happen, but I
hmm,
think this might be the thing that actually killed it.
yeah,
At least a lot of the independent theaters, and that's kind of the shitty part, is that after this we're really only going to have like the major theaters, which is all we have in Reno, granted. But there's a lot of cool independent theaters that a lot of the people that I watch on YouTube, a lot of the reviewers go to,
yeah. Hmm.
and it'll make me sad when I eventually see a YouTube video or hear in the news that that theater has gone under,
Yeah.
which will probably happen.
You remember when we were like
Um,
really young
so
kids, and there was Planet Hollywood and there was blockbusters. Like kids today is like,
yeah,
what's a blockbuster? But
yeah,
part of my for me, part of my childhood is just like nagging my parents to go to Planet Hollywood, and I would just sit there, I would browse movies, and like I wouldn't even rent one back. I would just go stare at movie covers and read their descriptions. And my parents were like, yeah, it's too expensive. We've already rented a movie like last week. I'm like, meow,
yeah,
meow. But that's my favorite part. And I remember it was really sad seeing all of them closed, and then like there's one last blockbuster that's still in existence. And it's sad to think that maybe one day theaters will be going the same. We'll have the last AMC. Like somewhere in the world, there's just one last AMC, and like two people go a week or something like that. It's a little sad though, because it does represent a big part of our childhood, like,
yeah.
but it's undeniable
I,
though, right? There's too
yeah,
much. There's too
don't.
much good things
I
that
don't. I
streaming
don't.
has. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think streaming overall is mostly a good thing.
Hmm.
I bringing up, with you talking about the Blockbuster and Planet Hollywood thing.
Right.
I was sad when those stores went away because
Hmm.
it was fun to go to those stores and like pick what you wanted to watch.
Oh hell yeah. Hmm.
But I got over it. I would just do that with Netflix and Amazon Prime and Hulu and whatever instead.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Do you think you're good over
But and
theaters? The
I,
same way.
I will be really sad if the
Mhm.
movie theater experience goes away completely in my lifetime, but it's
Yeah.
very likely that it will.
Hmm.
It's not it's not definite, but it's likely that it will.
Yeah.
But I don't think that'll mean the death of the movie experience. I don't think that'll mean the death of good cinema.
It'll change.
Um,
It will impact movies for sure, though, because I don't know if movies would get the same amount of profit from like debuting streaming as they would do in a theater. Because opening weekends are huge, but how do you calculate ticket sales when there are no ticket sales?
yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I do want to say in regards to this question, Mitsubashi 2
Mhm.
is asking, independent of the money, y'all feeling like art suffers from the streaming? Like, do people appreciate movies less because they're so readily available and see them on laptops with crappy
Ooh.
speakers?
Yeah.
Xanthi doesn't like watching most movies at home unless she knows they're kind of trashy.
Like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So
What do you think, man?
I'm gonna ask you that. I've been talking a lot. I'm gonna let you start this one.
Sure,
Yeah.
that's fair. Okay. So number one, like as a cheap ass guy who grew up in a culture where pirating movies is the common thing, and going to the movies is a dumb thing. You get made fun of. It's like buying a movie ticket. What the fuck are you doing? Are you an aristocrat, dude? Like, what are you doing here? Like, buying movie tickets, fucking crazy. Like, you know how many bowls of rice a movie ticket can buy? But but in all realisticness, I think part of like watching movies at home is really enjoyable for me. Like for me, that's more enjoyable than going to the theaters even. Because sometimes when I go to a theater night, it's really crowded. I can't get the best seat, and that's really important to me. Even though theaters have great surround sound system, have a great screen, if you're sitting way off to the side, you're not getting the full blast of that. And I feel like I've been
No.
cheated. We all paid the same price. Like I want that fucking middle seat. Like get out, kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think there's definitely a lot of inconveniences that comes with the theater, but at the same time, yeah, you do lose something. Like when you're watching it out of a speaker. But the biggest question is, will the common folk like think that's a huge detriment? Will they care about it? Right? That's the thing. Like, would you care about it, Wes? Since you love the cinema.
I obviously do care about
Mhm.
trying to watch something under the right circumstances.
Right.
I feel kind of shitty when the first experience of me watching something is on my phone
Mhm.
or on a tablet with like crappy speakers.
Yeah.
That being said, the majority of the public does not feel that way.
Yeah. I think
The
you're
majority
right.
of the public passively watches movies in the same way that people it's we the same way that people passively consume music.
Yeah.
Like people, most of the time when people listen to music,
Hmm.
they listen to it mostly the way I do, and I don't
Yeah.
always listen to it this way. But for most of the time, I listen to it passively.
Hmm.
I don't know enough about music to really critique it.
Yeah.
I know that when I listen to something, it sounds nice, so I listen to it.
Hmm.
Or it doesn't sound nice, so I turn it off or switch the song or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the extent of my musical knowledge,
Hmm.
and the little bit I learn on YouTube from the YouTube channel Sideways.
Yeah. Yeah.
But on that note, I
Yeah.
see that someone is typing stuff to you in Chinese, and
So okay, let me give a shout
haven't
out
brought
real
it up.
quick because yeah,
Okay.
it's one of my friends from my other channel. So my baby sweetie is just saying hi to me pretty much, like having an interaction. And she asked what kind of girls I like. Well, the ones who are girls, I don't know, man. I don't know, man. Like it's a personality thing. If I like the personality, I'll probably
Yeah.
like it. Obviously, the looks have to be like average or above. I'm pretty superficial. Like I'm not gonna lie. I can lie and say I don't care about looks, but I care about looks. And you already have to pass a certain threshold, and then I'll get to know your character. It's terrible to say, but it's true. Like I don't want to lie about.
It's
Like
yeah, I wouldn't say it's terrible, but I
right.
will say we should probably try to keep it a little bit more on topic.
Yeah, let's do that.
But I do want to point out Mitsubachi brought up an experience that I was going to bring up but didn't. But since they're talking about it, I'm going to.
Yeah, go ahead. Mm.
The cursed IMAX seats that Logan chose for us in the first Star Wars reboots genuinely made it physically difficult to watch.
Oh
I
my
remember
God.
watching
Which
it was the Last Jedi when we all went and saw the Last Jedi,
Uh huh.
and when the shirtless Kylo Ren scene happens,
Uh huh.
his nipple was the only thing we could see because we were in the top front left corner. And it was really, really funny.
Jeez.
Holy shit.
You know, I've had.
And it made that scene so awkward and so funny. So yeah, you do need the right seats for the theater, and that's kind of unfortunate.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
but in terms of sorry, really quick, in terms of what Mitsubachi 2 was saying about art suffering, I don't think so.
Hmm.
I think the medium
Right.
that you experience this
Mhm.
thing will suffer,
Yeah.
and I think that in terms of success, unfortunately,
Hmm.
the lowest common denominator, easiest to consume media
Yeah.
will be the thing that is more successful.
Yeah.
And that already is the case, but it'll just become more so if the theaters are not a thing anymore.
Hmm.
But I don't think the level of cinema that you see from like Bong Joon-ho or David Fincher or Lynn Ramsey or anybody like that.
Yeah.
I don't think that level of artistry will go away.
Like
I think there will
storytelling.
always be
Yeah.
I think there will always be a market for like really good cinema as an art form.
Right. But on the
Because
flip side,
even I want to make one more point with
Yeah,
that.
go ahead,
Even
go
on
ahead, yeah.
even on that point,
Mhm.
I've seen a lot of my friends on Facebook and a lot of people I know that
Mhm.
aren't really like into movies.
Yeah.
Most people aren't into movies the way I am, which I understand. But even then, like these
Ooh.
people really just aren't that into movies.
Yeah, yeah.
But these people I still see like, I'm glad I've taken a year break from Marvel movies. I'm glad that we didn't have to see one this year. I'm glad we got a break.
Yeah.
So I think that's a sign that even though the Marvel movies are obviously the most financially successful,
Hmm.
there's always going to be a market for Parasite.
Right. So the point
Yeah.
that I was gonna make actually has a lot to do with what you just said, and I'm glad you brought up Marvel movies. So when you watch like a great Scorsese movie on a potato, it'll still be a Scorsese movie. But what if you watch like a Marvel movie on a potato of a phone? Like, because it's gonna be pixelated, the CG that they spend millions of dollars for is gonna just look like pixelated bad video games from the '90s, which sort of defeats the point. So like a certain market of films are still going to suffer, but I think what you mean is overall the quality artistic films are still going to remain the same with very little detriment. It depends on
Yeah.
what they're going for, right? And actually, I'm
Yeah.
glad Aiden asked this question because this leads us to my next question. Because one thing is the quality of it may dip, but when you switch movies from debuting in theaters to debuting on a streaming service, does that erase the prestige of films at all, because there's a quality, right? There's the eye candy aspect of it, but there's something that comes with the prestige of actually making it on film, making it on that box office chart, and like having this showing of movies. When you don't have that, are the statuses of directors, statuses of actors, like gonna go down relative to when they're still debuting movies in theaters?
No.
Oh, you don't think so? Why not?
As that's a hard no from me. I
No.
think that there's and the reason is when movies were just visual,
Mm-hmm.
people fought putting sound in movies.
Yeah.
When movies came from black and white to color, people
Mm-hmm.
fought against that.
Yeah.
George Lucas himself
Mm-hmm.
was not for colorization.
Ooh.
Um,
Really?
when
Hated
talking
color, huh?
about everybody glorifies the 1970s as being like one of the peaks of American cinema,
Mm-hmm.
and they discredit George Lucas and Steven Spielberg for kind of destroying that with their blockbusters,
Really?
with Star Wars and Jaws.
Mm-hmm.
But and that will also be something that is frustrated.
Yeah.
Michael Eisner was afraid of putting old Disney classics out on VHS because he thought it would destroy his brand, but
Uh-huh.
he made fucking bank doing it, and everybody loves all the Disney classics as a result.
Yeah.
I don't think the medium by which you tell your story in terms of how your story is viewed, as long as it's still a movie,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that medium is going to actually destroy the prestige at all. I think
Really?
it'll hurt some feelings,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that there'll always be frustration from filmmakers, especially like Martin Scorsese or Quentin Tarantino,
Mm-hmm.
or anybody who has that opinion. There will always be that level of frustration when it comes to seeing things sort of correctly, and I feel
Right.
that too. If I said, "Hey, let's go watch No Country for Old Men," I would be
Mm-hmm.
like, "You're coming over to my house where I have a giant TV, a sound bar, and a like close to movie theater setup, so you can
Mm-hmm.
appreciate the visual and audio clarity and beauty of this movie, as
Yeah.
well as the amazing performances
Mm-hmm.
and storytelling." So I would prefer that be a thing. However, I don't think it's going to be everybody is now just watching on their phones sort of thing.
Yeah. 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 I.
And so I think there will be a certain amount of people who do just watch media that way, and I know some people like that, and I don't generally talk about movies with them because I know that their opinion is very skewed as a result.
Yeah.
But I think that there will always be that market for people who try to watch the film quote unquote correctly.
Yeah. I get you. I get you.
Yeah.
You bring up like I thought that was a terrific answer because you brought something to this that I don't think I ever would is the history of people fighting against change in the cinema. Because when I see this transition from theaters to streaming services, I just thought, well, since it's so accessible, like we wouldn't wait for it, we wouldn't like be hyped for it, we wouldn't not in the same way. We still would be, but I just think there's a difference from not seeing all the premieres, all the different pomp and circumstances. But yeah, I think you're right. I think if it's more accessible, more people will love it, and they'll get more fans. And then as a transitive property, like it's gonna get more prestigious, not less. It's just there's gonna be a lot less pomp and circumstance surrounding the movie before it's debuted. Or even like after it's debuted. So yeah, I think that's a great point. I actually think you're very, very correct on this. With more people that can watch it, because a lot of people they don't watch movies for a while or when they come out because they don't want to pay the movie ticket, like cheapskates like me. And I miss out on some really great movies because of it. And sometimes I'll just go pay for more blockbusters, but I won't pay for actual artistic pieces or character studies because they're not flashy enough for what I consider to be like worth spending on movies. They're not blockbusters, which is what I pay for, right? Like I wouldn't. Yeah.
For a very brief time, a couple years back, I was part of a movie club. I was the youngest person by like 50 years.
Did they
Uh,
touch you in
but
puberty?
no,
Like,
by 40, but by maybe actually 40 years.
how
Probably more
old? How
accurate now.
old?
I'm
Like,
thinking about it.
qualify this. How old were you when you joined this club?
I was in my 20s. It was only
Oh,
like
okay.
it was only like 2 or 3 years ago.
For a second, I was like, yeah,
But
Timmy, for this
yeah,
next movie, gonna
no,
close your eyes and.
I met them because they were customers of mine at House of Bread.
Okay.
And my old boss and I would go with them sometimes.
Yeah.
But they would just see a movie once a week.
Huh. That's cool.
And I during that time, which was only for a couple of months
Mm.
because it just got exhausting
Yeah.
doing it. But it was really fun to do that.
Mm.
Just to go and see a new movie in the theater, and it was never something I would have really picked out to see in the theater.
Yeah.
Once or twice it was.
Mm-hmm.
I would be like, I would be like, I've been wanting to see this. Like,
Yeah.
I think at that point we saw The Favorite at one point, and that was a fucking hoot. I loved that movie.
Really? Huh?
Yeah. But yeah, for the most part, it was movies I would never want to go see in the first place, and I think that was really fun. So the point of that is that when I move down there with you, and if theaters open, I'm gonna try to get you to do that with me. Maybe not once a week, but maybe like every 2 weeks or once a month or something like that.
Like a regular
we can
basis.
Just make a point of going to the theater and just seeing something, not necessarily the thing, not necessarily like the Tenet or the Black Widow or something that's coming out, but like some other shit that we're minorly interested in or just to see. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to that because I think that's also part of why theaters are so attractive is because like I pretty much only went to the theater when it's with you. Yeah, I think it was only with you actually. I went by myself sometimes and then with you, and I don't think I went with really anybody else. Yeah, and part of the reason why I love to go was because I get to go with my friends. We watch it, we like laugh about it, and afterwards we go back and we hang out for a bit. That's like a whole ritual for me. So that's why I personally like to go. But you know, there's gonna be a generation of kids, especially kids that grew up like during COVID, that would probably never get this experience. And by the time they get older, they wouldn't want this experience anymore because like it's not so special anymore. They have other mediums, and like why are you paying $5 to see a movie that you can't take home? Like just watch it once. Yeah. So I think like with that, I think theaters are actually going to die, like slowly go down the drain. So with this being the most likely outcome, do you think we would have lost something culturally if cinemas disappear? Like, do you think it's a detriment, or do you think this is a path to something better and more advanced?
I think this is just the way culture evolves, and the way art evolves. I don't think it's hard with something like this, and even with most things that people talk about. Nikki thinks that you went with her. So just so you know. But
okay. Anyways, you're playing.
But what was I talking about? I got sidetracked.
God damn it!
What was the question? Ask the question again. I'm so sorry. I got sidetracked because that was really funny.
Because it's funny because I also forgot what we were talking about. But it was
what
generally.
Was the last you had? It was an actual question on your thing. I think.
No.
What was it?
Well, it was somewhere along the lines of: do you think it takes away from culture? Do you think like it's a detriment?
No. Okay, so no. I think. Sorry. I think that this is just kind of the way culture evolves, and the way. Sorry. And the way that the way that this sort of medium changes. When musicals stopped having big roadshow productions in the 50s and 60s, we lost something.
Yeah.
But we also gained a new way to tell stories. We gained the 60s and the 70s, which had, like I said earlier, like a really amazing age of American cinema.
Yeah.
And with streaming, I think while we may be losing something in like the mainstream of film, I think with streaming, we've absolutely gained an amazing opportunity with storytelling and television.
Yeah. I think you're right.
Because I've heard it multiple times that we are currently living in the golden age of television, like starting with The Sopranos in the 90s, and then still going now. And I don't really disagree with that.
Mm.
Like, I don't really like to quantify things in that way,
Mm.
but I will say that there's some amazing television out there right now.
Right.
That's exclusively on streaming services.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like Ozark,
Yeah.
The Witcher show is really good.
Mm-hmm.
The Boys on Amazon Prime is amazing.
So
The
great.
Watchmen show.
Yeah.
Handmaid's Tale
Mm-hmm.
is really amazing.
Really?
All sorts of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so while we may lose, at least for a little while, I don't think it'll be permanent, but
Yeah.
at least for a little while, like that prestige kind of any movie can succeed, not just superhero movie sort of thing in the mainstream movie cinema.
Mm-hmm.
We gain, on the other hand, this amazing level of storytelling and television.
Right.
Which I'm very thankful for.
Yeah.
And so, and not only that, good movies are still being made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, talent.
Like, they're just they don't succeed like the Marvel movies do, and they
Right.
never will.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing like Parasite is never going to get to the level of Endgame.
Yeah, that's true.
But unless it's made by James Cameron.
Mm-hmm. Well, in that case, it would be a Marvel film, but just not as good.
Well, it would be Avatar. It would be Avatar or Titanic. Yeah,
Right. Exactly.
but which are I still love Titanic.
Terrific films.
Avatar's. I think Avatar is still pretty good too.
Yeah.
I don't. I know a lot of people hate it, but
story is dated. I think most people love it though. Like it did really well. There's just this select group of people who really hate it, who are really loud about hating it. So that's why I think it seems like a lot of people do. But I think most people are either okay or really like it. Like I like it. Even though it's dated. But yeah, you made a fantastic point though, which is like more things are accessible and more people, like before, when you want to make a movie and want to make it in theaters, you have to have connections. You have to have like a name for yourself. It's very hard to break into that.
Yeah.
But now with Netflix and everything else, like somebody who hasn't directed before can make something extremely great. And they have a better medium for that. Like streaming services like Netflix, Hulu, HBO, Disney Plus, they've all had multiple films from no-name directors, and a lot of them, a decent amount of them turn out to be really great. And they're films I'm like, dude, if this is in theaters, like I would definitely pay money to see it.
Even on YouTube.
Yeah,
there are people who do really well in the independent film world. Like look at Rocket Jump, Freddie Wong's company.
Oh yeah,
or Corridor Digital, or even like smaller channels that have like a cinematic flair to them, like Binging with Babish, or what's his name? I can't think of his name.
Me neither.
I just watched him. I can't think of his name.
Shame. That person, whoever he is going to be really sad.
Whoever does Charles the Coconut, he has a film channel that's okay. I'm sorry, I can't think of his name
Barking
right
on
now.
the wrong tree.
But
Charles the Coconut is disappointed in you.
But
you've shamed Charles the Coconut.
It's Charles, not Charles. Charles.
All right, Charles, whatever his name is, disappointed in you, man.
But anyway, I can't think of his name right now for some reason. But anyway, but even just in that medium, people make amazing works of art. So you don't even need to be necessarily financed by like a major studio or anything like that. You just have that. I do want to say really quick, Sheba Squish from earlier says, do you think maybe the reason why television is arguably, in parentheses, doing better than film is because our generation prefers a long-form narrative?
What do you think? That's a good question.
I'm going to let you start again on that, because I talk a lot. I'm talking a lot on this one.
I don't have a strong preference. I would never say films are better than movies or movies are better than films. Because, well, number one, films.
Or you mean television is better than movies?
Excuse me. Yeah, that's exactly. You can
just want to clarify. Just want to clarify for the viewers. Just make sure.
That's why we're friends, man. You know me so well. But yeah, I wouldn't make that distinction. Not because I think like one truly isn't greater. It's just like they both hold a special place within my heart. But yeah, you're right. Like longer form television is very tricky because they're long. You gotta do everything right. Beginning to end, you gotta do everything right. Movies are a lot easier to get right because you have like less time to do it. Like you don't have to deal with the fact you have this long overarching narrative. And what if you ran out of ideas halfway through? For a movie, if you ran out of ideas, bro, the whole thing's 2 hours anyways. Like not a lot of people are gonna remember. It's a bad movie. It passes. A bad TV show is gonna go from season to season to season. So there's difficulty variation, but I love both. If I had to pick, okay, so here's a question for you. Lord of the Rings. Would you rather see that in the 3-part Peter Jackson film, or would you see it equally, or would you rather see a television series made about the same content? Which one would you prefer?
That's interesting because we're going to be getting the latter in a little while here.
Well, sort of, I guess.
Yeah.
The prequel version of that, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's going to be the Silmarillion.
Yeah,
I know,
Silmarillion.
it's sorry, Silmarillion. That's how you
I thought it was
pronounce that. Yeah.
Cimmerillion.
No, there's an L in the beginning there.
You sure?
Silmarillion.
You sure?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm just kidding. Yeah,
pretty darn sure.
Okay, I have no idea. I'm just messing with it.
But anyway, yeah. That I don't know. I have obviously right now I have a big loyalty to Peter Jackson's films because I think they're just about perfect, especially Fellowship.
Right.
Which I think is perfect. Like I think Fellowship's perfect.
Return of the King's my favorite. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't really have like a preference when it comes to like that level of storytelling. That brings in other questions of adaptation.
Right.
So I'm not really sure if that's quite the best example I would go with in terms of that. I do want.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was about to give you a different example then, because I think a better example will be: what would you rather have, the current Witcher series on Netflix, or would you rather have a Witcher movie? Same actor, same everything.
Yeah, well, it's the same thing though. It's adaptation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Who does it better, right? But like, there's a preference.
Yeah,
like, would you rather see the whole story? Because there's so much lore behind it. Right.
I think if you gun to my head, you had to ask. I would prefer something as big as the Witcher universe and as big as like Game of Thrones, for example.
Right.
Or Harry Potter even. I'd be down for a big. And we're not going to get it because of everything going on with J.K. Rowling right now. But the Harry Potter narrative, I think, would work really well in terms of like a season by season thing. Like each season doesn't. You could decide how many episodes, but each season is a new book.
It's a terrific idea.
I think that would work really well.
It's a terrific idea. I would prefer that over movies, like personally.
Yeah, I think most of the time, like I think most those movies do a pretty good job, but there are only a couple of those movies that I like still enjoy now and consider to be like good cinema.
Likewise.
Yeah. Not all of them. They're like a few of them I just straight up do not enjoy watching, and I feel kind of shitty. But it's just I really have a hard time finding the good parts in them.
Thank you for saying that. I've been afraid to say that because some people love that, but I'm an avid reader of Harry Potter book. I learned English off the Harry Potter book, so it was like I would never go against J.K. Rowling. If she said like I hate all chinks, like I would be like yes, I still like her. And the reason for that is because I love the story so much, and I'm so loyal to it. It's true. You think I'm kidding, but it's totally true. She can like smack me, just kick me in the balls, and I'd be like, "Yeah, J.K. Rowling, you go, girl. You kick my balls, man. You kick my. I don't need them anyways." But like I never thought the movies did it any amount of justice. It was fun seeing it on screen when I was a kid, but when I grew up, like rewatching it, I was like, bro, I feel like this is very subpar compared to the great like content that it was based off of.
Yeah.
Like there's so much more that would have made it seem like there's so much more to the story that it left out. And those were important aspects to me. Yeah.
And there's a little bit about that it just comes with adaptation that you're always going to get, and that's why it's an adaptation and not just the book on the screen.
Right.
But in terms of answering Shiba Squish's question about long form narrative, I think that there's I think our generation in particular really likes to just have something in the background. Like I have a friend, and I do it too.
Yeah.
But I have a friend who just puts on Friends to do whatever, and just has that in the background and watches, and doesn't really watch it, just listens to it, and barely that. There's a little
bit of a sadness that goes with that, because I think it's just mostly people are afraid of being alone. Like deep down, everyone is. Even like the people who are lonely, I think they're just more accustomed to it. So to like distance ourselves.
A lot of people don't. Yeah.
From that abyss, like we got to like have background noise. That's what I think, anyways.
No, it's kind of spooky to just be alone and quiet with yourself.
Right.
I have to do it a lot because I'm a security guard. But but
which place? No.
I'm
top
more
audience,
okay.
Yeah. Well, because
go ahead.
Well, tell the audience which place you're working as security guard at. We can have more people like try to break in there, so you're like less lonely. So you're like more entertained.
I'll let them know.
Yeah. Just leave it in the comments below.
But no, I'm more okay with that level of quietness than most people. But even then, I like most of the time have something going on in the background. What I'm doing. It's usually something I've seen before. I try to make it that. If I'm watching something new, I try my best to not do anything else and just focus on that.
Yeah.
which is why I end up watching a lot of things over and over again, and why I've seen Fellowship of the Ring thousands of times at this point.
Yeah, let me share with the audience like an aspect of watching a movie with Wes, because sometimes if like it's just a throwaway movie we're just watching for fun, Wes will like say the lines to the film before like they say it, and sometimes you say it in sync, and like for the first like second and a half, it's like, okay, you memorized like one line from it, and then he keeps going. I was like, wow, that's impressive. You memorized this whole page of dialogue, and then he keeps going. They're like, oh my god, he memorized every single fucking word of this movie. And it's like, dude, how many questions did you watch? And like, how? Like, I used to think I had a great memory, but I was like, I can never do that. It's like all the pause, all the beats. And I was like, and sometimes I try to like get in on it with you. Like, I try to say the quotes and I'll say it wrong and I'll fucking embarrass myself. And they're like, yeah, it's okay, man. And just keep going the movie. I'm like, bro, like, you're a hermit. You're a sage.
It's such a curse.
You think it's a blessing, but it haunts me. I know what they say already before I watch it. What's the point to life?
There's no point anymore. There's no, but point. I just love watching. I love storytelling. My favorite medium of storytelling, regardless of how much I enjoy a book or regardless of how much I enjoy a game or music or anything like that, my favorite form of storytelling is probably always going to be film and television. Which comes with a lot of baggage, and there's going to be baggage with any artistic medium because art has to make money, and so there's always going to be like this line you got to ride between financial success and artistic freedom. And film and television have a lot more of that conflict than a lot of these other mediums do, in my opinion. But that's also probably just because I know the medium better. So. I don't think. I think part of the reason why television is doing better is because people just like to binge things, and people like to just get that continuity going. And I think it's also just part of the level of the maturity of the audience. Like television used to be not like when it came to a show like House, there would be an occasional plot altering episode, but for the most part, a couple episodes later it would be back to normal, and you can pretty much just watch it when you could catch it during the week,
right?
When it aired on TV,
right?
But with go ahead.
Oh, sorry, you were cutting out for a second. I thought you were actually finished speaking there. But I just drew like this.
No, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's like I just drew this comparison, this metaphor almost. I think movie is like heroin that you get to take once a month, right? But TV show is like heroin you can shoot up every night. And who the hell wouldn't want to shoot up heroin every night? Who wants to pick shooting up heroin once a month? Like, if you have a druggie, like, you can smoke crack, right? Are you gonna smoke crack once a month? It's like, no, screw that. I want to smoke crack like every freaking night. It's like binging TV shows, right? Watching a movie, you watch it once, the story's done. You watch it again, it's not gonna be as good. And you can, or if you're waiting for the next one, you had to wait for like a year or two. It's like, no, that's too much. But for a TV show, not only do you finish the episode, you can watch the next one, but the story changes and it keeps going. Like, you get something that's good, and it continues to go, and it changes, it's different, and you get to smoke that crack pipe every night, baby. Like, and then tomorrow, like, so like, it's more stimulus for you. It's more like dopamine to your brain. I think that's why it is. It's just.
Yeah, I think that, I think you're right in part of that. I think it's also, like we were saying earlier, about instant gratification, and that kind of being like one of the hallmarks of our generation. And I think that's been in big part why Game of Thrones, at least for a really long time, and even in its bitter end, why it was so successful, is because there was plot altering episodes like every other episode.
Yeah, keeps going.
And it constantly changed. Like, if you watched an episode, if you couldn't watch that show just casually on TV, not correctly, as we were talking about earlier. If you watch like the middle of season one, if you start in the middle of season one and then like a couple weeks later caught the end of like season 4, there's so much dissonance there that you just can't do it. But if you watch, if you did that with House, it'd be like, oh, his team's a little different.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Whatever. It's still House. It's okay.
Yeah, I get what
He's going to solve the medical mystery at the end of the movie, at the end of the show.
You're right. Episodic TV show. Because like with movies and TV show, there's a difference, but within TV shows and TV shows, there's also a difference. There's episodic, and there's like a whole chronicle like of events, of stories and stuff. Yeah. And that's a little different.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that like that kind of like through line, that kind of a overarching story
Right.
throughout
Hmm.
a season or the entire show, like Game of Thrones or Boardwalk Empire or Breaking Bad has.
Hmm.
That kind of thing started to really come about when streaming services became a thing.
Right.
And
Yeah.
because you don't have to rely on people just tuning in when they could,
Hmm.
they can watch the whole thing right then and there.
Whenever.
And so
Yeah.
you can change it however much you want
Hmm.
during that time,
Yeah.
which is why television is so good now, is because it has that freedom to do those daring things that previously only movies could do within their 2 to 3 hour time slot.
Right, yeah, and it's not. I wouldn't even call it television anymore. I think streaming like has parted ways with television. Like I think
Yeah, in
they're
a
just
way, yeah.
shows. There's shows now. Yeah, like nobody TV. Wow, that was the thing in the past, right? Who has cable television nowadays besides old people? But like I think what we got from this whole talk is that streaming is definitely gonna be the thing of the future. But even though it is the thing of the future, though, I want to bring up a couple points. Is that like it's not always good. Some people still find ways to mess it up. Like
Hmm.
famously, recently, Amazon debuted The Boys season 2, but they only gave us 5 episodes, and they withheld the last 5 to be released every single week. And the ratings for that show, which is fantastic, dropped like a rock. It went from like 5 stars in
Really,
the first season to like 2.5 stars, like not even 2.5 stars. It might have even been 1 star for season 2,
really.
and not because of the story.
Huh.
Story was fantastic. I loved it, but like everyone in the comment section leaving little stars like, dude, you guys are fucking greedy. Like, how dare you not give me all the episodes? I am owed, sir, the whole
Yeah,
episodes. Like, not being able to binge like gets people crazy. Much like if you take away a crack addict's crack pipe, it's like,
yeah,
I'm gonna fight you, I'm gonna fight you. And I'm sure they would have done the same thing. Would have fought like Amazon executives or something like that. So that's one
yeah.
example, right? People doing that wrong. And the second example is just like Mulan. You heard about Mulan, dude? $30 a pop for the
Is
movie.
it actually $30? I thought it was $20.
It
It's even
was
worse than I thought.
29.99.
Wow,
It's 29.99.
wow.
So
Yeah.
which is an even 30.
Um,
Let me yeah. Yeah, it's 29.99 plus taxes like 31, $32.
I still haven't watched it. I feel bad for all the reviewers that had
That's
to that
yeah.
felt like they had to. Well, they did because they're reviewers, but
Yeah.
they had to pay for it and watch it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
no,
on
that kind
top
of
of
thing.
the subscription. Sorry, I forgot that. It's on top of the subscription. If you have a subscription to Disney Plus, you still have to
Yeah,
pay $30. If you don't have a
yeah.
subscription, you can't even pay $30, dude.
It's so dumb. It's really bad.
What are you thinking?
Um,
Like, oh my god.
so that kind of thing. The boys thing, I don't really have an issue with.
Mhm.
It's kind of a bummer
I
that they
did.
got some backlash
Yeah.
for it.
What are they
Because
thinking?
I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I kind of, I guess I grew up with still having,
Mhm.
still having that sort of like weekly thing,
Right.
or like that semi,
Mhm.
like every once in a while catch a new episode sort of thing,
Mhm.
because I did that with some of my favorite shows. I still love House.
Right.
I watched that when Avatar was first coming out,
Mhm.
The Last Airbender, by the
Right.
way. And
Yeah. You didn't need to
I had
clarify,
that with,
but
yeah,
I'm glad you did.
yeah. I had that with Full Metal Alchemist when it was still coming out.
Yeah.
So I had all these things that I expected to only catch weekly or every once in a while,
Mhm.
and follow the narrative that way.
Right.
And so I think and Game of Thrones was like that too, because it was on HBO, which is a network, and they only did their episode a week,
Mhm.
when the season was actually running, and
Yeah.
that was fun. I enjoyed that weekly ritual.
Mhm.
I enjoy spreading things out like that. So the
Yeah.
boys trying that, I don't think is a bad idea, and I'm a little mad that they got such backlash for it,
Yeah.
because I think that's actually, I would have looked forward to having that more.
Mhm.
I like the anticipation. I like waiting for something. I like the
Ooh.
build up.
Ladies, listen closely. Wes likes the anticipation. Blindfold the guy and make him wait.
I am
Tease him.
quivering with anticipation.
I'm, you got. I thought you like froze up for a second, but that's actually a very unique perspective. I think the reason most people, and like this is by far the majority of people, hated the boys for what they did, and it makes sense because I'm gonna do another like drug analogy. People are gonna think I'm like a drug head, but it's like having weed in the '70s, right? Weed in the '70s, sticks, seeds, and all that stuff. You can get high off of it, but if you had that weed and then you got introduced to today's weed, like medicinal shit that would just mess you up. Like, you're in a coma for about like 6 hours, and like, what just happened? And if you smoke that for a length of time, and all of a sudden they're like, yeah, hey, by the way, like, Miz, like, you can't smoke that good shit anymore. The ganja's gone. Bye bye. Here's Miz. Most people are gonna be like, well, what the fuck? You're gonna introduce me to the good life, and then you're gonna give me this again? Like, are you kidding me,
Yeah.
dude? Like, you're
Right.
cutting my
Yeah.
cocaine with sugar. So that's the backlash, is that people are used to like binging movies because it's like crack. It's very addictive. It's very satisfying. You get to satiate that satisfaction. But when withhold that, it's like withholding like this great drug, and you're just giving them half a hit. It's like, somebody's just heroin, right? Here you go. I've never done heroin. I have to say this now. I've never done heroin. But one day I'd like to try. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's like somebody injecting heroin, and you get that rush going up, and then halfway you're like, yep, I'm gonna cut it off. This is all you get, and then like the high's gone, and they're like, dude, why do I even bother doing heroin then? Like, what the fuck? And they're gonna get mad about it. So it's understandable why they would have a backlash. Although like I'm glad there's still like sensible people like you who appreciate teasing yourself, just edging that. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna wait for that movie. You make me wait, baby. Oh yeah, blindfold me. Yeah, whip me with that crack. Bring me to the edge, but never let me finish.
Without getting too into the edging aspect of it,
Yeah.
I think there's a value in like making the audience wait.
Yeah.
I don't think, but again, that goes back to the instant gratification thing we were talking about with our generation.
Yeah.
And so when we're denied that, it's like, what the fuck? What are you doing?
Yeah.
I do want to talk about very briefly, this because I didn't mention it before, that a specific visual mass media medium that is not explored and really taken advantage of in the way I think it should be.
Okay.
And that medium is the
virtual reality porn. Sorry, what?
No.
Okay.
not virtual reality porn, although that's a discussion for another time. The thing I want to talk about is the miniseries format.
Oh, yes, very good. Yeah.
And the miniseries format is so fantastic because you get enough time to develop all the characters, and often an ensemble if you really do it correctly.
Yeah.
And it's short enough to where you don't have television executives pushing you to move the story forward and keep the show going when it's logically gone past its prime.
Yeah.
You can just end the story. The problem is artistic or financially, it's not really a good way to do things. Artistically, it's a great thing. And by artistically it being a great thing to do, I have yet to see a full season of something that I enjoyed as thoroughly as that first season of True Detective. And that, because that, boy, just that first season, that first True Detective season with Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson is so good.
Thoroughly enjoyed the first episode that you
showed me. It's so good. Because it does everything that a narrative needs. It does everything right in terms of narrative, in terms of cinematography and sound and music and acting and everything.
Right.
And it does it all in this condensed space, so it's not this giant commitment, and it doesn't go on for too long.
Yeah.
And it's still long enough to where you feel like you're not getting shafted by any character development in favor of some cool action set piece or vice versa.
Yeah.
So that in my perfect world, the mini series is probably the way to go in terms of like original visual storytelling.
Yeah. And that makes sense.
Adaptations are a different thing, and you might have to go like full Game of Thrones for that. But but for original ideas, a miniseries is a great format.
Yeah, and I think one of the huge reasons why miniseries are great is because in the beginning they have the whole picture. They know beginning to end what that's going to look like and flesh it out.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of the mistakes that kill some fantastic shows, like one of my favorites is Dexter, for the first like 5 seasons. and it's that they don't have
Yeah.
the whole picture. They're like, let's start with this cool concept and let's see where it ends. And sometimes it doesn't end so great because you trap yourself with various like stories, and that's part of the reason why like stories like Death Note are so great, because beginning and end that guy like had it out. But some animes just go on
Yeah.
and on fillers, and it's like, dude, this is so great, but now it's like it's a
Yeah.
chore watching it, and it's sad.
Death Note and Full Metal Alchemist and Avatar: The Last Airbender are all really good examples of shows that tie it together really well.
Yeah, because I'm not sure about Avatar and Full Metal Alchemist, but they probably had an idea of the full picture like before they got into it, and that's really great. So
I know Avatar did. I'm not sure about FMA.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
It must have, because it ties together so great. Like the ending was amazing. It fits really well. At least that's my opinion. Okay, so with all this discussion, we're nearing the end here. So let's just sort of tie it up with one final question. Like we've all think that like streaming by the way of nature, by like just Darwinism in the theatrical business, is going to be the thing of the future. There is almost no question about that. I'll be surprised if that doesn't come through. So, Wes, quick question though, like disregarding all the logic, disregarding everything else, if I were to give you a choice, if you have a future with just cinema or the future with just debuting movies on streaming, and what I mean is like when movies first come out, there's a whole first month where you can only watch it in theaters, or in a universe where no theaters exist, when movies debut, it's all on streaming. Which future would you rather have?
So new movies are always either just out on streaming or out in theaters.
Yeah. So it's the beginning, right? So right now, movie comes out. It comes out in theaters for whole months, and then like a year later, it moves on to streaming platforms. Would you have that for the future, or would you have every single movie that comes out, no theaters, go straight to streaming?
If I really could have it my way, I would say, I would go theaters. Have it be available in theaters only.
Yeah.
For the first month or however long it needs to be.
Yeah.
To make, because that means we get because I just like the theater experience. And I like financially supporting something that has artistic value to it.
Right.
And I'll support financially things that don't have artistic value to it, like any Ant-Man movies that come out.
But I'll deny you money. This money is not for you.
Yeah, but I would probably prefer the theater thing. Just because I just like doing that. Realistically and practically, obviously streaming. I mean, I have a decent enough setup where I'm at to enjoy a movie in an ideal sense.
Right.
At my house, so if it was only streaming, I'd be okay, and I'd be like, I'm still gonna watch this on as big of a screen as possible.
But if you were
God, and with as best with the best possible sound that I can afford, and feel like spending money on.
Yeah. I get
you.
But you know, hard.
But not everybody's gonna do that. I don't think theaters will completely go away.
Yeah.
At least not for a while. But I think a lot of them are going to be going away, and a lot of them already have, unfortunately.
AMC is probably one of the few ones left, because didn't Bezos buy AMC? I think Jeff Bezos.
I have no idea.
I think AMC was purchased by some huge moneymaker. And yeah, those are going to be the only theaters left. Independent theaters, which are like a huge part of a lot of people's lives and their childhood, they're not going to exist anymore. Like, that's just the sad truth. Like, they're going to be gone, like, in about 10, 20 years or so, maybe 100 years, but they'll be gone. But yeah, like, I think that question, the reason I asked it was I kind of want to get to know like how much you love the movies, and I think the answer is that you really love it, not just the movie itself, but the whole ritual of going to movies with friends, the whole experience of being in that environment. Like, even when it's empty, when it has a lot of people, you would enjoy it regardless, and I think that's great. I think that's amazing. Like, for me, I'm not nearly as cultured to the point where I'm okay with just streaming. Like, that's my answer. Like, yeah, okay, everything's on streaming. It's good.
No. I guess my real philosophy of this whole the way movies should be seen sort of thing comes from is movies are in this unique area where they're so ubiquitous and so available, and same with television right now. It's so available to everybody as like an art form that you can't avoid being around it,
Yeah.
and so people treat it very passively. It's the same thing with music. I'm much more guilty of the music thing, but
Hmm.
there are a lot of people who believe that you shouldn't listen to music through earbuds
Uh-huh.
on your phone.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who are really traditional about that old vinyl sound.
Hmm.
But when it comes down to and which is why I can never really say I'm like a big like music buff or music critic or anything like
Well,
that. I can kind of say,
Yeah.
yeah, I can say that about myself about film and television
Hmm.
because I can say this when you're talking about a piece of visual art
Yeah.
like the Mona Lisa
Hmm.
or anything that Aiden does,
Yeah.
can you really get the full experience by looking at it on your phone?
Right. Yeah.
You can't.
Not this whole,
And
not
I
the whole thing. It's not the
No,
same level.
and I
Yeah.
don't think you can do that by just listening to something either,
Hmm.
especially with movies. If without visuals, it's just radio.
Right. You get a
Um,
fuller experience if you
yeah,
experience the actual thing.
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
You wouldn't um, you wouldn't expect to go to a museum and just see a tablet and a picture of the Mona Lisa. You'd
Right.
want to go and see the Mona Lisa.
Exactly. Exactly. I think
So
that's a great way to, yeah, tie it off. And we are like right at the hour mark. So any
yeah,
final thoughts? Actually, I thought we just had was like great. Any final word you would like to say about just the future of movies?
support your local movie theaters when you can.
Hmm.
Just be safe about it,
Yeah.
and support financially movies that need your support. The Parasites and the Bong Joon Ho's and the Edgar Wrights of the world.
The hose and the
Support those
rights.
people.
Yeah. The
Yeah, the
right
Ho's and the
hose.
Wrights.
The right hose, not
The,
if it's not
the,
the right
ho- the
hose.
hose, the hose, Wrights, and the Ramses. Please do that.
Exactly, exactly. I guess for myself, I felt shame when you said support your local theaters because I really do. Like I have a history of pirating movies because I'm cheap, so I definitely have not done that, and I should be better about it because it's sort of stealing, but not really. Who's counting, right? But yeah, I agree. Though I agree. Like if cinema is taken away and I don't have the choice anymore of going to an actual cinema because they're not financially sustainable, I would be sad. And yeah, I think one day, even though one day it will be gone, right now let's do our part for these people who are providing, who provided us with our childhood and a great like
Yeah.
shiny, like sunny part of our childhood. So yeah, that's really great. Anyways, yeah, thank you so much for imparting your film wisdom to us, Wes. Like it was really enjoyable. I
It
think I
was
learned a
really
lot.
fun.
Yeah, and thank you so much for all our viewers and watching this. Like a lot of interaction today. We really appreciate it. Thanks to everyone who like sticked around. We had like at most I think like 6 viewers at once, which is really great, pretty on par. So thank you guys, and thank you for the 2 viewers who stuck with us the whole thing. So, arigatou gozaimashita. Okay, all right. I'm just gonna close it
Thanks
off
for
here.
watching, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for watching, and have yourself a fantastic, fantastic night. Bye bye.